30, 40 massive Samoans, jacked up, broken noses, there was big giant gashes. I'm pretty sure it was like a botched drug deal or some shit like that, but physically punches through the window and basically tries to attack the people in the car. One of the guys picked up their bollard and he just bonked one of the guards on the head with it. I've never seen someone take off their shoe with a hard sole and just start smacking someone over the head about it. So this here is District 14 now, but then before that was Empire, which I owned, and before that was Shakers, and before that was like 1708 or some shit like that. It's been around forever. It was an old pool hall when I took over it, but we turned it into a nightclub. It still runs as a nightclub now. Anyway, so this yarn goes. This is the best brawl I saw here when I was running it. So I was here for like 7 years or something like that, maybe longer. So the story starts beforehand. There was this kid called Jack. I'm not going to say his full name, but he used to come in from Cranbourne. And basically he was sort of like, I would say kind of came across like a bit nerdy or maybe a bit dorky or a bit socially awkward. And he'd come down with some people I knew, like family friends, and he'd get into altercations every now and then. And then I was always thought he was the victim because he didn't look like an aggressor, right? And I remember the first time it happened, he sort of stuck up for himself, but he knocked this dude out. The second time it happened, he sort of stuck up for a girl, and these two dudes tried to gang bash him, and he ended up knocking both of them out. On the third time it happened, my business partner was sort of like, hey man, like, I reckon you're getting this wrong. This dude's 3 knockouts in 3 fucking months. I don't think that he's the one getting picked on. I think he might be the aggressor. So over time, we sort of figured out that I was wrong. He was not the person getting picked on. He was not necessarily the aggressor, but he was the finisher, right? So that story changes because he came in very socially awkward and, as I said, a bit kind of nerdy in a sense. And then over time, people really kind of saw that he had some hands on him, right? So basically from there, he started knocking around with some like more naughtier guys who were like a bit more about that style of life, right? And so I saw him progress, and you know, glasses came off, got a bit cooler, and rah. So on this night, the brawl that I saw here that was wild, he's involved in it. So he's the main character of this fight, right? So basically, year on from me thinking that he's the victim, and he's knocking around with these dudes. And from my understanding, I'm pretty sure it was like a botched drug deal or some shit like that. But both crews knew each other. They were both regulars to the nightclub, and it kicked off. This fight kicked off, and these guys were guys that were there all the time. And something had happened. Someone owed someone money or some shit like that. And it kicked off near the main bar. So the main bar is like directly to those doors over there. And it was like erupted over the booze, and they were punching on and rah. And both groups like had fights before. They weren't definitely not sweethearts. But this was the biggest one I saw. So it comes out, so we end up kicking out one group, but because these guys were both from the same area, we like don't really know who's in who, because some of them were friends, they were like, you know, they dated the same girls and shit, so it was kind of confusing, because traditionally when this happens, you separate both crews and you get one to go, you dismiss them, then you get the other one to go, you put them out a back door. On this night, we didn't have that luxury because we didn't know who was who, because, you know, as I said, that was all kind of inbred, they live in the same area, all date the same girl, they all knew each other. So we end up pushing the whole group outside, and it fucking erupts worse than before. So the brawl is like everywhere. It's all over here. It's all out there. There's people fucking punching on like everywhere. There's like 40, 50 people in this brawl. And then someone escapes over to that back car park where that white car is. And basically they get in the car. They start trying to drive through the pack of people to kind of break this fight up. We've got guys in there pulling people off the road, trying to stop it. It's just fucking like a volcano. This car sort of starts to like accelerate and stop as it goes through to try and get people to move. And that's when Jack, our main character, jumps in. So Jack jumps up on the car and he fucking grabs onto the windscreen wipers, and this is wild, something I've never seen before. And the car starts to drive, trying to get him off while he's holding on like a fucking rodeo bull. He pulls his t-shirt off, wraps it around his hand, and he progresses to punch the fuck out of the window. And every punch, you can see the window cracking more and more and more until he physically punches through the window and basically tries to attack the people in the car. They drive, he falls off, and they escape. And this thing eventually de-escalates. But I'd never ever seen someone take off their fucking t-shirt, jump on a car, ride the thing like a fucking rodeo bull, and punch their way through it. So that's uno numero, number one, but we've got plenty more. There's another one I might add in here. It's like a little bonus feature, but one of my favorite kind of knockouts I saw was a guard here one night. There was a guy who was playing up, and he was sort of, you know, saying he was a part of like a outlaw motorcycle gang, and he was sort of threatening the guard. And this dude was 19, but he was fucking humongous. He's like 150 kilo monster, like Samoan lad. And his name, I won't say his name, I doubt he guards now. He'd be 30 now, but I reckon. But he walks out and he's not really phased. He's sort of kicking this guy, and this guy's saying, you know, you don't know who I am, I'm gonna fuck you up, you're gonna regret this, rah rah, all the same shit you hear all the time. And he takes him over to those palm trees there, and he basically grabs the guy in full effect, and the guy's like bridging up to him, and he smashes him, slaps him, not hits him, slaps him so hard that the dude goes, he's standing like this, and the dude goes full 360 from one side of his feet all the way up in the air, because he's dragging it over like that. He goes whoomp, full 360 and lands on the other side of his feet and collapses, completely knocked out cold. But I remember watching it back on CCTV like 100 times, and I was like, what the fuck? It was like a full boom, and just full spun him around like a merry-go-round with his feet up above, looking at the sky, and then landing back on the ground. So that was one of the craziest knockouts I saw here, but I did see a lot of them. We've been railroaded a little bit. The 360 tour managing thing is happening, so I'm going to make that a separate video. I'll put a little snippet in this one so it makes a bit more sense, but we're going to go meet 360 at 1:45 to TM him, which means tour managing him for Listen Out show, go backstage and whatnot. So if you want to watch that video, no doubt it'll be posted either before or after this. So we're here at one of the other biggest brawls I've ever seen. So I'm not going to put them in order because I'm just driving around, and as I remember them, I'm fucking popping them up. But this one here was unique. But before I start and tell you the venue, I'm going to mention that it has new owners. So the owners that were here when this incident happened are now no longer the owners. So it's new management. So the venue is called Howler. And I don't want to be too conspicuous, but at the moment they've got an event on there. It's called Closet. It's like a LGBTQ event on. So I don't want to go over there and fucking, you know, ram my GoPro down their throat, but I'll tell you this yarn. So I was running an event, and it was, I'm going to call them out. I've been keeping it secret in a lot of my other videos, but it was this thing that I do and I run. It's called Brotherhood Records. And basically what we did was we had a Brotherhood tour. And on that tour, we did a Brisbane show, a Sydney show, and we also did an Auckland show, and we also did a Melbourne show. So if you've watched some of my other stuff, you've probably seen what happened at the Auckland show, but that was the Brotherhood tour. This was the last show on the tour. And basically what we did was, we were hoping that nothing like that what happened in Auckland was going to go down again. But so we came here, and the event was sold out. I think we did like 300 tickets or something like that. And the audience was predominantly, I would say, you know, different. Predominantly was Islander, because obviously two headliners were Samoan. One was half Aboriginal, half Samoan. Put on this show here, and there was a bunch of other locals on. So basically, there was sort of a bit of like a pre-talk where guys, you know, like, let's make sure that this is a good show, there's no trouble, everyone's looking out for each other. If you see something kick off, break it up, rah rah, which is normally like a bit of a pre-hype thing that we do before every show. And to be honest, other than these two incidents, I ran like 30 of these. I never ever had incidents. I would literally give that rev up conversation speech beforehand, and everyone would fucking look out for each other, and if something kicked off, they'd take it around the corner. But this night, again, we weren't so lucky. So again, another thing I want to preface before I start, but there's a misconception that Samoans are more aggressive than others. They're not. It's just that when they kick off, they're a lot more bigger and stronger and harder to control. So when security guards can be difficult to them, the reason why is because if there's 10 or 12 of them, it's not to do with them being more aggressive or more angry or more scary or anything like that. It's more to, if it does kick off, that they're probably going to be very, very difficult to get rid of because they're so fucking big and so fucking heavy. One thing that's kind of interesting with Samoans is that Samoans hate Samoans. So when you're going to have an incident, traditionally, if there's different groups of Samoans, there's a good chance there's going to be a punch-up. They, for whatever reason, they're pretty territorial, and especially if you have ones from different areas, they're going to fight each other. So I would say all the Samoan fights I've seen, or majority of them, have been Samoans v Samoans. They really enjoy fighting one another. So on this night, so we're here, it's a drill rap thing, and I was sort of one of the guys who did predominantly majority of these in Melbourne because everyone was too scared of them or risky. I kind of really immersed myself in the culture with these boys, and I hung out with them a lot. They became friends, still friends of mine today. I still catch up with them. Artists like Melbourne, Ryan King, Amul the MC, Say True God. There was New Wave with some of the artists that were here on that night. And I'm not going to name names as I go through this incident, but basically what happened was we had the first 3 acts on. And the room was getting full, and we had sort of precursed to the venue, so the old owners of this joint, that this was going to be a big crowd. So I sort of had sent home to them that they might need to put on some extra guards with some big guys. So as I rolled up, kind of got there was this like little bar manager on, and he kind of gave me some drink cards and whatnot, and I was like, oh, where's the guards and stuff? How's it all run down? And there was a chick and 2 sort of like smallish Indian guards. And at that point I was like, hopefully there's more guards, because if something happens here, they're gonna have some serious fucking trouble trying to get rid of these guys. And And saying that, I was like, you know what, good vibes, everyone seems happy, we should be fine. So I started playing, we were hanging out backstage, having a couple of drinks, you know, having a laugh, actually laughing about the Auckland situation and then how crazy that was when I walked downstairs to get somebody in. And as I walked downstairs to get somebody in, I see sort of an argument on my right hand side. So it's, don't know who the other guy is at the time, but he's fucking drunk, I can tell that for sure. And then it's one of the artist's friends. So the main artist, the headliner's artist's friends. And I'm watching him and he's notorious for getting into blues. Great guy, but if there's one on, he's gonna figure out how to get involved in it. So I'm watching him and they're sort of arguing and I'm like, fuck, hopefully nothing goes on. I walk off, deal with what I was going to deal with at the door, which was getting some other artists in that were late, but they were meant to be performing. And I basically walk over and I say to the brother of the guy who's arguing with this other bloke, hey, can you make sure nothing happens? He's like, yeah, all good. And almost instantaneously as I say that, these dudes start swinging at each other. And both these boys are big motherfuckers. But what was probably more concerning was that they were both with another 12 or 13 big motherfuckers. So this fight sort of kicks off and it's on the right hand side of me and I'm watching it and it falls over and there's like 5 or 6 people into this fight. And then as it goes off, the guys are just watching it. No one pulls it off, no one does anything, everyone's just standing there watching it. And these guys are fighting for like 3 or 4 minutes and then eventually they sort of get back up and then someone gets pushed out into the main room. So at the time, this was condensed into the side room and everyone's just watching it like transpire and just fucking get worse and worse and worse. As it breaks into the main room, the other 8 guys and the other 8 guys from the other groups, they see what's going on. They see it's a punch on, so then they jump in. They jump in and then it turns into like a 16, fucking probably more. It was like 20 people in this brawl, absolutely going to town on each other. And some of these boys were like $150, like they were massive humans, right? And 30, 40 massive Samoans jacked up, absolutely punching the fuck out of each other, throwing glasses at each other and whatnot. And then legitimately the guards are just watching. And I remember at one point it probably went on for like 15, 16 minutes and the lights are on. And the chick that was managing the venue just kept yelling, everybody out, everybody out. But obviously they weren't leaving. So you had like 150 people watching this punch up and then there was 50 people involved in it. And there was people literally yelling out like, where the fuck are the security guards? Where the fuck are the security guards? Because I feel like the guys who were actually in the punch up, they got over punching on. They got fucking sick of punching on because they couldn't stop. Both sides were going to town on each other. Eventually, like probably 20 or 30 minutes later, the cops finally came and the cops dispersed everybody. So the chick that was managing it, she was fucking screaming and yelling, trying to get everybody out. And then they broke out. But what they did wrong, again, I talked about this in the last video, is they pushed both groups out the same door. They actually opened up the back door. I actually went out the back door, and by the time I'd walked around the venue and I got back to the front door, there was probably no shit all through this area here. There was honestly 12 to 13 cop cars. I actually might have a video, but I'll put it in right now. And this joint was like a fucking crime scene. So when I got to this side, the brawl had broken out again at the front, and they continue on, and the cops started spraying fucking pretty heavily, pepper spray. So all these dudes got absolutely touched up in pepper spray. One of the guys, a friend of mine, a guy called Jamie, he was absolutely fucking flogged by it. And then when I got here, he was literally standing right over there with getting milk poured directly into his eyes. And the guys were kind of laughing, so I didn't know if it was like a joke or not. Funnily enough, both these groups knew each other. The fight didn't stop there. It escalated into different areas. So they both kind of moved off and went down to different places. And from what I understand, there were spot fire fights for like the next hour in different locations. They kept catching up and punching on. But the misconception is that Samoans are more aggressive or they're more angry or more scary. I don't believe that's the truth. But if you don't have enough guards, if you don't deal with them properly, exactly what happened in this situation this night, what's going to happen? You're going to have 40 fucking giant men weighing over a ton, punching on with people just watching on, not being able to do anything. You need some big, scary, strong fucking security guards if you're going to do a drill rap night. And this venue, even though we pre-warned them, they weren't prepared, and that was the consequence of what happened. I'm not trying to put on the excuse of the show or what happened or the actions of the people involved, but what I will say is that it could have easily been dealt with. If that was my venue, when I used to do these drill shows, I used to put on an extra 5 or 6 guards. That first punch on would have got dragged out, we would have moved on, and the night would have gone on. But at this night, there was nothing that could be done. There was zero that could be done because you had 2 giant groups, completely intoxicated, angry as fuck, 3 guys trying to protect them, and they just had to watch. So everyone just watched this fight. But one thing I will say again is that these big boys know how to fucking fight. So there was broken noses, there was big giant gashes, there was fucking broken jaws. The actual injury list of this one was ridiculous, but it went for so long. I reckon both groups were fucking at the end, almost about to shake hands, just go call it a day because they were sick of fucking fighting one another. So we're gonna head into the city now, CBD, and do another couple of stories. The Railway Hotel. This story is not a brawl, but it's worse telling why I'm here right now. This here is the Railway Hotel. To say this joint has a checkered past would be a fucking understatement. So this joint used to be a mall back in the day, obviously a pub, and at points it was a backpacker. But back in 2016, I think, the guy that owned it, and I was running events here almost fucking monthly at the time when this happened, the guy that owned it ended up getting done for selling $700,000 worth of narcotics to fucking undercover coppers. And it was pretty blatant. Like, I was there running shit at the time, and it was blatant what was going on. And he ended up doing time in jail. I don't know how long for, but we used to run heaps of events here. I'll put some videos up right now because I've actually got some. I love doing events here because, you know, I talk about those cowboy era when things were insane and crazy. This place was like the epitome of that towards the end. It was like the end. I reckon 2016, 17, after the big giant bust of this joint, is when things started to like not be as wild. So this was sort of the end of that era. There was another club too, which I won't go into detail right now, that the same sort of thing happened at the same time. So after there was a proper crackdown, they started like tightening up the screws, making it harder for people to own venues if they had a dodgy pass or checkered pass, making sure managements weren't dodgy and all that sort of shit. So things got tighter around this time. And since then, as I said, I've used the term before, I would say nightclub owners are like Telstra club shop owners these days. But this joint was the complete opposite of that. We used to do mostly psytrance raves here, so we used to use the outdoor area. Great parties, bars were shit, but one of the worst and most aggressive deals I ever did was we were doing psytrance parties here, and no one else was really getting it to work except for us, myself and my business partners, Loud Entertainment, we were called back in the day. And every time we would do something, we would sell 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 tickets. Everybody else was doing shit there, was doing like 200, 300. So this was like, became like a little bit of a home for us during that time, that 2016, before it got closed down. So what we did was we actually went to the owner and he was like, I need you guys to do some more events. And we're like, no drama, we'll do a winter series, we'll do one every month, but you're gonna give us 20% of your bar taking. At the time, we didn't know what he was doing. Like, we kind of knew whispers that shit was getting sold and whatnot, but we weren't aware that, you know, they were selling so much gear through the fucking joint. And just to put it through, during this joint, there were secret latch doors they found like dumb waiters, there were showers, if you turned the tap, you know, a secret compartment would open. It was fully rigged out for this, to be able to do this. And the people, I remember, the only thing that was probably a dead giveaway, I can remember running an event and there was people coming in for free because we had to let them in, and there was a line out the office door, and I was thinking, seen that before. And when I saw that last time, it was not good news. And the person who was doing the same activity ended up in the same place, which was jail. Anyway, so we went to the guy and we said, you know, we want 20% of your bar. So anything you sell, if you sell 10 grand, we want 2 grand of it. And he said, to our surprise, he said yes. And we're like, fuck. At the time, we thought he was super desperate, but we found out that he didn't really give a fuck about the bar. He was making money off other sources of income. But that's the Railway. Not related to what the stories I'm telling, that's a bonus one. But again, what a fucking epic venue. So cool. The history. And then apparently it's running over there, it's open again. I don't know if it's open inside, but long live Railway. What a fucking awesome venue. We are heading up to a joint called Kurova, but the brawl, it didn't happen from patrons in Kurova, but the brawl happened next to Kurova. There is a yarn about me getting gangbashed right here by about 10 different dudes, but it doesn't fit this YouTube story. So if you want to go watch that, you gotta go check out Burke Street video that I've got on my YouTube channel, and you can hear the story about how I got gangbashed right there. So this yarn does not start at Kurova. So that's the old Kurova bar there. It's now called Angel's Music Bar. Believe it or not, it's actually owned by the same guy. But this brawl starts right here at this Indian restaurant. So this joint here was called, fuck, I can't remember what it was called. It was like, what was it called? I can't remember what it was called, it doesn't really matter, it's a story. So anyway, that basically, what happened was that night was, there would always be cab drivers that eat here. So back in the day, you could sit here, and if people were cooked or chopped and they sat there and ate, they'd get in trouble. They'd get in trouble for sitting there. So these guys were pretty on it, and they both would come out. I think it was chili pepper, red chili, or red pepper, I think it was called red pepper. And the cab drivers would come, and it was sort of like a local eats joint for them, I guess, or like a, they would hang out here when they were off shift or waiting for people or whatever, they'd meet. And it was mostly the guys that wear the turbans, sheiks. It was mostly sheik cab drivers, and they'd park all along Burke Street and they'd come up here and eat. So this night, I don't know what happened, but there was a bunch of cab drivers here, and you could tell they were like relatively aggravated, and there was about maybe 9 of them. And then all of a sudden, cabs started coming from everywhere. So there was cabs all over here, pulling up, and all these cab drivers started pulling up. So they came over, and these guys weren't sheiks. So the guys who were used to eat at this restaurant were sheiks. Guys that came out of the cabs, they weren't sheiks. So I don't know what was going on or what had happened, But basically, they ran over and this brawl erupted right here. So there's about 18 to 20 cab drivers here. And they were picking up the stools like that, and they were throwing at each other, biffing at each other. And one of the things they were doing, which was interesting that I'd never seen, was they were taking their shoes off and taking their belts off, and they were using them as weapons. And they were full fucking lassoing each other, like bang, bang. And it went on for a while, and then the cops all pulled up. And basically, as soon as the cops all pulled up, they all ran back to the cabs and all fucked off. So that was a pretty big brawl. It probably only went for like 3 or 4 minutes, but it was a wild one that I saw. And not even more so because of the bloodshed. There wasn't a whole lot of bloodshed, but it was just more so like the way they fought. Like they came out so aggressive and they were fucking angry, and everyone was throwing shit, throwing chairs, and the belt and shoe thing. I'd never seen someone take off their shoe with a hard sole and just start smacking someone over the head about it. So that is one of the last ones. We're gonna go down to Billboard, or Roxanne it's called, tell a couple of yarns down there, and we're gonna finish up this YouTube. Not related, but that is a 24-hour steak joint. You can come here at 3 o'clock in the morning and get like a high quality steak. They do the best ever Reuben sandwiches I've ever had. But yeah, anyway. There's actually another story I can tell while I'm here. There was another brawl that we had, so there was 2 groups, and funnily enough, the guy that owns Lucky, one of the other guys, his name's Kieran, he was a good friend of mine. He still is a good friend of mine. We run Hello Sunshine together, but how I met him was actually here. So my group and his group were not having an argument, but basically someone in their group was trying to punch on with one of my mates. So basically we'd come up with this idea that they could have a one-on-one around the corner over here. And there used to be these things called Muppets, like most useless police officer ever trained, we used to call them, but like they're like kind of like Met Pigs. They used to hang up over on the stairs. So I said to my guys, I'm like, when we get around the corner, it's all in. All 6 of us we're gonna biff. So we basically, as soon as we went around that corner, it was on. So it was like a 6-on-6, and it kicked off, and then it ended because the security guards came and they sprayed everyone with pepper spray. But basically, that was another yarn there. So again, I could tell brawl stories for fucking 3.5 hours. Some were fights, some were scuffles, some were different situations, some were all in brawls, some were everything. I could go on and on and on. I've literally seen hundreds and hundreds of them, but I won't because they're getting boring. So this topic is just big brawls I've seen. So I'm not going to get, I'm going to try not to digress like I normally do, because if I do, you'll be sitting here watching fucking me tell war stories and brawl stories and different nationalities punching on for the next fucking 3 years. And I could bring on special guests and different people from my industry who could do the exact same thing. Working in our industry, one of the things you see a lot of is fights, especially 2 decades. And as I said, like in the heyday, we would get like, some clubs would have like 10 to 15 a night. So when I say hundreds, I'm not exaggerating. I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fights.
Very calm.
We're on Little Burke Street here, which is like Little Chinatown is what we call it. This is one of the last stories. There's a story about me getting fired from my job for a massive all-in brawl. Again, it was like 40 people fucking all-in brawl at the front of Billboard. Find that story on the Russell and Lonsdale Street vlog, where I tell that yarn about how I got fired from my first nightclub job from punching on with the boss's friends. But this story here we're going to tell now is one of the first time I got pepper spray, but also one of the biggest brawls I saw. One of the biggest brawls I saw down this alleyway. So we're going to go check it out once it stops being full of people. So that joint behind me is now called Ballers, but it was called Roxanne Parlour, and I used to do heaps of parties and events down there, and also raves. Like when they emptied it out before the owners took over and redid it up, we used to run raves when it was empty as fuck. They were called, we used to call them abandoned nightclub raves. They were mad. Anyway, we used to like I think the most I ever put through there was 1,600 people. But anyway, on one of these nights, I was up here and I was doing an event there, and it was an event that I did called Fornicated. So this was really, really popular back in the day, and I had done about 1,400 tickets, and there was a group of guys that came down, and I effectively said, oh, look, they look like trouble. There's like 6 of them. They were like Middle Eastern lads, and I said, oh, let's not let them in tonight if they don't have tickets. So they didn't have tickets, and they didn't let them in, but they didn't take it well. So it kind of started off with an argument where they were like kind of yelling at him, saying, you know, like fuck off, fuck you, fuck whatever. Then a couple more security guards came down the lift, because you go down the lift there, and basically they took that as an intimidation tactic, and they decided to kick off. So basically one of the guys picked up their bollard, so the bollard that creates like the club line, and he just bonked one of the guards on the head with it. And after that, it completely kicked off. So everyone was picking up bollards, and they were fucking smashing each other over the head with them. There was fight. It went for about 3 or 4 minutes. People kind of all went back here, so the whole line was here, and it was like a boxing match. Like everyone just left like 30, 40 meters, where these dudes were just going to town on one another down there. And eventually, out of nowhere, this undercover cop, or out of off-duty cop, ran down. He was like, move, 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 move. But he just looked like a normal dad, in like a dad fit. And he pulled out like a little can of fucking pepper spray and started pepper spraying the whole spot, the whole area. And basically, people just started coughing too, because there was like hundreds of people in this alleyway, so everyone was like, and then those dudes ended up fucking basically like holding their hands, you know, asking for water and shit, because if anyone's ever seen people get pepper spray before, it's the quickest way to escalate anything. People just literally cry and cough, and both parties who are fighting no longer hate each other. They just literally cough together and cry for milk and water. So same situation in this one, and then eventually the police came and arrested them and got them away. But again, another story. It was a good sized brawl. Couldn't get broken up because the guards were just fighting with these dudes, and it was, I guess, even, and bollards were involved. So again, I've seen plenty of brawls, but these are just some of the brawls that were like a little bit different than other brawls I'd seen, and a little bit more hectic. And almost every single one of them, except for the dude holding on to the fucking windscreen right up and pumping it out the window, ended with police breaking it up in some which way, shape or form. And that's the end. Really don't have any massive ones in King Street, because back in the day they used to have so many guards down there that we never really used to see that many brawls. Like you'd see biffs and whatever, but the guards would help each other. They'd run from one club to the other. And like one thing that makes all these different brawls that I've just told you about kind of unique is that brawl was down alleyway, so no other guards were able to see it or help and run from another club, which is very, very common. Guards protect guards, believe it or not. Even if they don't like each other, they'll protect each other when they have to. The Empire story, again, we are isolated by ourselves. No one was there. So again, those guys sort of, they couldn't stop it in container because there's too many people. The Corova one, again, we're up there by ourselves, so there was nothing we could do to stop the fucking Indian brawl. To be fair, we didn't, we just watched it, that one. Mile one, again, Howler is isolated. It is in a different position and spot away from everybody else, so they only had the 3 guards there, and as you can imagine, there was 40 or 50 big giant guys biffing on, and there was no way to stop it. So every single one of those brawls have the exact same sort of situation where the guards were outnumbered and there was nobody around to come and help. On King Street and those other big precincts like Russell Street and stuff like that, when a brawl would erupt or get close to erupting, guards would run from everywhere and stop it. And obviously there was police monitoring, but in these isolated, we call them destination club venues because they're not on the strip, so people are visiting to visit that venue. You see these situations erupt more often because there isn't that backup or constant scrutiny or constant surveillance from police, where when you go to a strip like Fortitude Valley or King's Cross or King Street or Russell Street or whatnot, you do see a lot more activity, and because of the activity, you see less fights and brawls. As I said before, I could keep going forever. I'm not gonna. But if you've seen a crazy story, leave a comment below. And if you don't subscribe, please do, because I'm almost at 10K and I need to get there. I want to get to 10K. Let's blow this channel up together. We're gonna go check out Listen Out. So this thing that I've now collected was before I said I was gonna go TM, Tour Madness 360. I was there before, I didn't really film because obviously I was working, but we're gonna go check that out now. So if you stuck around this long, you're gonna see a bonus backstage Listen Out experience. But while we're doing that, I'm walking down this place here, and it is called Croft Lane. So there used to be a bar down here called Croft Institute, and this is as Melbourne as it fucking gets. But all the way down there, there's like a door, and you used to be able to go in there, and they used to take you up into a joint, and it was like a lab. You'd like drink drinks out of test tubes and shit. But you can see here, there was no signage. There still is no signage, and you had to figure out and find it. It was one of Melbourne's most secret bars. It was like a horror movie fucking laneway, but legit, this is the bar. Like, you used to walk up here, and then they used to have a basketball court on the 3rd level, and there used to be like an absinthe bar. So this is the first time I tried absinthe. I remember going with a mate, and you can't get in there, it's all locked up now, but you can see how fucking hectos it is. But I remember going with a mate, and I was like, I'll shout the first one, you shout the second one, and we had like 3 beers, and I shouted the first absinthe, and they like burnt sugar on it to make it like less fucked up, and then it would drip into the drink. And then we had one, and needless to say, we never had a second one because my mate was fucking chucking his guts up basically straight afterwards for the next 3 hours. But that was an absinthe bar in Melbourne, and it was arguably easily the most hidden bar in Melbourne. But anyway, we're gonna listen out. Let's go check out backstage there. Give you guys a look of what it looks like backstage on YouTube. So here, right now, these are all the cars rocking up. As you can see, those big vans, that's where all the artists come in, and they always got blacked out windows. They're always Mercedes-Benzes. You can see there's 3 over there, 2 here, 1 here. And that'll be the big artist. They roll up to the back of the stage, and then they have to have what they call here, which is called accreditation. This one here says artist, and I've got to have this wristband. If I've got that, I can walk through here. So this is the artist car parking. We've just come through. We've gone through 3 stages to get here, and we're going to go directly into backstage.
Blue wristband as well?
Yep.
Always, brother.
Thank you, brother. Come through here and get like food passes. They do like a full fee. There's all seats and stuff like that. But, you get drinks. Normally soft drinks are free, alcohol you can pay for. Other festivals give you alcohol for free. It depends. This joint here has got a lot. There's like a media room at the back there. Obviously doing interviews and shit. And then you've got all the dressing rooms for each and every single artist. So we've got here, we were over here earlier. So Sub Focus is now in ours. So we've got Sub Focus. Ben Gerrans, we'll go check him out later. We were actually in that green room earlier. Dave from Lucky. Lith I think he's on either shortly or has already been on. And up here, because I've already seen 21 Savage's production crew and groove. So we're going to go now and check out the end of Skepta's set. I'll give you a quick run through, maybe I'll even speed this bit up. And then you come up over here, we'll run. I've got a feeling it's going to finish soon. But there's no way they'll let me on stage now. They do a thing that's like they call it lockdown. It's funny because Skepta's got a song called Lockdown. Basically they lock down the side of stage so you can't get up there when they have the big artists. So like Skepta would definitely have a lockdown. 21 Savage will 100% have a lockdown. Earlier today, I've got some footage I put in earlier where we were allowed up there and I was able to wander around. So you can see that's the side of stage there. It doesn't look that strict, but we might go check it out later. So we'll go check out side of stage right now. That's the accreditation I was talking about. You gotta have. You're gonna have them in your hands. When you realize she was never your girl, it was just your turn. You gotta face your demons, no matter how much money you earn. Your brother said 4L when the shit got real and he weren't concerned. The same old story, the world spins round and round. Lessons have to get learned. Truth has to be told. I don't bend, I don't fold. I lost count how many we sold. I went silver, I went gold, I went platinum. So what's next? Supermodel trying to send the news on the text. I can't believe what used to be best. See it's too easy to write a sentence about how my dad raised me. Cause I'm the mirror at my dad raised me. The real top boy that's calling in the victim. I've been living my life in the kitchen. I'm calm with the heat in the kitchen. I was a young boy, mum told me what my name and the powerless. So basically, Pusa is from Blacklisted Visions, and he just told me that they locked down the front. They let photographers there for the first 3 songs, and now they've stopped, so we can't get through there, but we can with 21.
That's not me and it's shut down. Green pussy, it's shut down. Hey, Fashion Week and it's shut down. I went to the show sitting in the front row in a black tracksuit and it's shut down.
You'll see over here, there's 3 trucks, right? That's all production and shit, staging, whatnot. And there'll be trucks in front of that, and then there's another truck here. The amount of fucking trucks it takes to put that stage behind us up with all the power and shit is wild. There's Skepta over there doing an interview. What time you guys play?
We're walking down now. Are you gonna come watch band?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Oh, that's why I'm sort of half fucking around. So we're walking over with Ben Gerrans right now to the Prophet stage to go check out what he's doing. He's out the back here because this is mostly a DJ stage. Oh, I got a water cooler, wow.